Dr. Kate Bowler is a New York Times best-selling author, podcast host, and professor at Duke University. She is a historian of American prosperity gospel. Think the message of health and wealth and happiness that's popular in many megachurches. She is a wife. She is a mother. Sadly, she's also fighting stage 4 colon cancer, has been told that she has a slim chance of survival. She's just published a phenomenal essay in the New York Times that at this moment is in all of my social media and is posted at Smerconish.com. It's an essay drawn from her forthcoming book, No Cure for Being Human. Dr. Bowling, thank you so much for being here. First and most importantly, how are you doing? How is your health?
Oh, thanks for asking. It's a bumpy road. It's something that I always have to be on top of. It means I never get to go back to that feeling of being invincible, which I miss.
2015, it began with stomach cramps that unfortunately had a bad diagnosis.
Yeah, I didn't have any cancer in my family. So it was a really shocking bit of news that really took apart that feeling that I'd had, that my life was a series of choices. I'd been such a go-getter, and I thought, life is just, I've got to climb the ladder and I've got to make every decision count. And then suddenly I realized that so many of the things that determine your life are the things that happen to you, that you don't get to choose. And so ever since, I've been thinking a lot about the way we talk about our choices and what's available to us in the course of just a regular life.
You have no bucket list. You're not writing, you're not making a bucket list. Why not?
I was a little horrified to discover that the term bucket list had such a boring history, that it was mostly based on the Morgan Freeman movie of that name. And that's why everyone got obsessed with just the phrase. But the idea that we can complete our life is an old and intoxicating myth. And I think that's once I sort of started digging around in the history, I realized that especially in our social media age, it really is a form of experiential capitalism, the idea that you can collect moments in your life. And I think I was starting to realize that it's so much easier just to count items and to check things off than to really know what counts.
So if your approach to this situation is not of drawing up 12 things that you want to do before you have no time left to do them, then what has been the approach that you've taken?
Yeah, well, and I still want to see the pyramids. I had a lot of early dreams of Egyptology, but I think part of the wisdom of it, the hope for it, is to figure out what are just minutes in our lives and what are moments. What are the things that feel like they stretch out and make our lives beautiful? And usually those things will never make it on a list, like the eating cereal every day with my son and pretending to be cats, or the amazing feeling when you meet somebody new and you realize that they are magic and also that they used to be a race car driver. I mean, it's just letting the present and the past and the future feel like more than they're just like small math that we add up. So yeah, I guess I'm trying to be a little more courageous with that. And also I'm looking to be surprised. Like who knows what ridiculous thing today is going to hold.
Moments like, girls, we have 3 kinds of apples.
I didn't realize that, like, my mom always felt like she had big news for us. And usually it turns out it was just inventorying the fridge. And so many times in our life, we just don't know what matters because we're always trying to get to zero inbox or figure out that mythical 4-hour work week, or, call your mom back. Right now, everyone's mom needs a phone call. But I think just trying to separate out those bits of the day that feel endless, and then the parts you just need to get through, like traffic.
I know that you're right, but it's very hard to put into practice. I know what you're saying is absolutely the correct answer for all of us. And I laughed when I read the story. You have to tell the Apple story. But then putting that into practice for the rest of the day today and tomorrow is a hard thing. Instead of deciding, here's that list, maybe it's not a bucket list, but here are the things that I know would bring me happiness.
Yeah, I mean, this is the only reason I write about it is because I struggle with it so much. I'm forever living in middle distance. Like I'm almost somewhere else. I'm always thinking about the future. And I always have that feeling, that like lightly hysterical feeling that you get when there's a million things you're supposed to do that day. And especially now with the pandemic, when everyone's been living in shrinking time economies, emotional economies, everyone doesn't have enough. So I guess the first bit is just giving up on the idea that enoughness is out there just out of reach. And that feels like that's a daily practice. Like because when you look at social media or anyone else, everyone else seems to have figured out this best life now in which they have more than enough. And I guess that's what researching the prosperity gospel and living with cancer has been trying I don't believe in lessons, but trying to teach me is to maybe loosen up on the idea that there's more than enough if I just figure out how to conquer every day.
Fair to say, and I should distinguish for the audience that you're an expert in so-called prosperity gospel, but that's not necessarily your tribe, right?
Yes, that's right. Thank you. Yes. Well, I'm a Christian, but I don't believe that if you have a special kind of faith or a certain positivity that God is going to give you health and wealth and happiness. And I don't believe that things just work out for people who have the right attitude. I think that life is full of painful chance, and some of us are lucky, and some of us are not. I think that's why that's why we need courage. We wouldn't need courage if we could just figure out the magical formula for living a perfect life.
In other words, if you were following the edict of the type of faith that you're expert in, but not a practitioner of, then it would hold that faith alone could get you through this. But I think I hear Dr. Bowling say, but I know that's not true.
Yeah, I think I was pretty good. I think I was pretty loving. I think I was a pretty good Christian. And, and then I'm the person with stage 4 cancer. And I've met a zillion me's. I've met a million people whose life just falls apart. And so, not believing that everything happens for a reason, not believing that there's a magical fix for our lives has been a huge source of comfort for me as I figure out, well, if we can't guarantee that our lives will work out, then what now? How do we live like this, not always certain of what's ahead?
Dr. Bowler, has it shaken your own faith?
I I imagined that I would be really angry. And I think honestly, I mostly felt angry at people sort of saddling me with their reasons, like telling me that I had gotten cancer so I could learn a lesson, or that there was something about me, that either what I ate or what I'd done that caused this to happen. I think that was usually what created the giant ball of rage inside of my soft beating heart. But I think mostly the reason why I didn't experience a crisis of faith is that trying to be less of a hustle monster, being, I guess, humbled by this, it meant that my life was cracked open to a lot more love of other people, knowing that I couldn't fix my own life and needing other people to bring food, feeling honestly the love of God and other people. That has kind of been the only reason why I haven't been, I guess, devastated in the way I thought I would be.
What has, I hope this isn't too intrusive, but what has been the approach with regard to your son? Obviously, your husband is knowledgeable as to your situation.
Yeah, I mean, I've got a little, it's one of the joys and pains of having a kid that's little is that he's not been, little kids live in the day that they're in. And so I have plenty of hope for I'm still not out of medical options. There's a lot of runway ahead. But I guess that's sort of the place that we try to live in as a family, of not being hyper certain about the future, but not being too scared about the present either. So I don't know. It feels strange because usually it feels like parenthood is all about protecting your kid from anything being wrong, making sure that they never feel scared. But I feel like my job instead is just to say, yeah, no, life is full of things to be afraid of, and yet I let's figure out the way through.
You were diagnosed in 2015. It's now 2021. I'll bet that some who are listening to us or maybe will watch us see miracle in the
Mhm.
fact that you're here and
Yeah.
we're having this conversation.
Yeah. And I think it just depends what our definition of miracle is. I mean, I certainly feel like I just keep being gifted a wonderful time. And that always feels like a miracle to me. And I pray, and lots of people have prayed for me. And I'm so grateful for that. I think the bit that I'm always trying to not hold on too tightly is the idea that I did something special or anyone else did anything special to get me here. I'm full of a lot of luck and a lot of yeah, a lot of good fortune.
Your book is called No Cure for Being Human. The essay from which it was drawn in the New York Times, which is in all of my social media right now, and we'll put a link to the book purchase as well, concludes this way. You say, there's nothing like the tally of a life. All of our accomplishments ridiculous, all of our striving unnecessary. Our lives are unfinished and unfinishable. We do too much, never enough, and are done before we've even started. We can only pause for a minute, clutching our to-do lists at the precipice of another bounded day. The ache for more, the desire for life itself, is the hardest truth of all. Will you expand on that before you leave us?
I think I thought that if I was going to finish my life, wrap it up, get somewhere, that I would stop feeling hungry, that I would stop wanting more, that I wouldn't want to, live an unmet Canadian need to drive a Zamboni, which I do. But
Have you done that? You need to do that.
I do need to do that. But I guess I'm imagining that hunger itself is not the problem. If we're living our life right, we'll never stop wanting more. We won't stop wanting more love of our kids and our friends and the joy, the dumb, beautiful joy of the day. So I think hunger is part of being human, and that's the part we have to live with, knowing that there won't ever be enough. I think that's
Is there,
okay.
is there ever, therefore, a role for lists, bucket list or otherwise, but life lists?
Yeah. Yeah, I think lists help people like dig out hopes they had. We're like, oh crap, I really did want to drive a vintage car, or, I really am afraid of heights. Maybe I should try, et cetera, et cetera. I think it can help kick us out of fears, shake up our routines, make us wonder if we could be something a bit more. I think all of that is lovely. I think it's just the idea that that the list would ever be finished is the problem.
Right. And what I'm learning from Dr. Bowler is don't make the mistake of thinking that accomplishing whatever might be on your particular list is going to bring some type of closure or finality.
Yeah, I think it can bring wonder and fun and absurdity. And I mean, like I'm always having random taste tests that like, will I taste test 5 ketchups this Friday? Yes, I will. Yes, I will. And I will check that off. But I will never imagine that it'll never make me, not hungry for more.
Dr. Bowler, I wish you all good things. No cure for being human. No cure for being human. I hope we get to have a conversation like this again going forward.
Grateful to be with you. Thank you.
Thank you. Nice of you to say that. I'm grateful that you were here.